Over the course of this journey, some almost 1,000 days in a row, I have tested out a lot of different exercises, pre and post squatting. It's always been around squatting, obviously. But I've tried a lot of exercises. I've tried squatting straight off, the first thing you do. I've tried squatting at the end of workouts. I've tried squatting before this or that exercise. I've tried a lot of different things. And over the course of this journey, I've worked out there is a bunch of exercises that you can do before you squat to make your squat feel better. Then there are exercises that you can do to make squatting feel like absolute crap. Over the course of the journey, I've realized that most of the time, most posterior chain exercises feel good or make you feel good to squat after doing them. So, I can list off a whole bunch of things, deadlifts, block pulls, deficit pulls, RDLs, snatch grip RDLs, you name it, anything like that, rack pulls, like anything like that makes your squatting for whatever reason feel good. This is one of the reasons why I started to think, okay, this squatting business, especially ATG squatting, deep squatting, has a lot to do with the posterior chain. And this is where I kind of ran down the rabbit hole of hamstrings. This is what I got attracted to by, listening to Louis Simmons talk about hamstrings. He said, all squatting is about hamstrings. If you have strong hamstrings, you're going to squat really well. It doesn't matter what you do. Whether you're box squatting, whether you're ATG squatting, all of that stuff. One of the other things that he said, which often rings in my mind, is this idea that if you get stronger in wide stance squats, your narrow stance squats are also going to be good. But if you only do narrow stance squats and you get stronger narrow stance squats, your wide stance squats are not going to be good. So, if you precipitate down, that down to a logical end, you'll basically conclude that the wide stance squats are the superior ones, which is why Louis did what he did with the style of training that he did. So there are some like almost half truths, full truths to certain movement patterns. Like, there's some things you can do to make your whatever movement pattern that you want to do feel better. Now, I've also said that there are some exercises that you can do before your main workout, before your main movement. And if that main movement suffers because of that exercise, then you can basically conclude that that exercise that you're doing before the main movement is contributing to the strength of the main movement because it's fatiguing the same muscles, and which is why you are not squatting to the full potential. Now, comparing these two ideas, something that feels good and something that makes you stronger, I feel like are different things. Sometimes I feel good squatting. Okay, I just feel fantastic going through the ranges of motion of the full squat, but I feel weak. And I don't mind that. But then other days you come in and you squat and you literally feel like your hips are about to pop out of them sockets. Your back feels stiff. You can't get into positions. That is the enemy, in my opinion. That is what I don't want. I don't mind feeling weak because of this exercise has weakened me before the main movement, the squat. I don't mind having weakness, but when things feel off, like you can't actually get into positions, you feel like your muscles are not happy doing this, you feel like you're achy, my hip pain coming back, all those things are a bad sign. Now, going back to this idea that any sort of posterior chain movement will benefit your squat, I've tried to kind of over the course of many months now to kind of, precipitate that to a finer, kind of more concentrated idea. So we have a lot of options for posterior chain exercises. And in recent times, the 45-degree hyper and the GHD back raise just freaking feel amazing. Yes, I get weaker in the squat after I do these, but I feel good doing the squat. Today I thought, let's go back to something that I always used to do. Well, not always, but I used to do at the start of the year. That was kind of like one of the big, bold, written in my journal, this is what we're going to focus this year. And that was the RDL. And I had some success, put on a whole bunch of strength. Today I was like, okay, let's go back to the RDL. And today I mixed it up. I wanted to do snatch grip RDLs. I could have gone for like a deficit RDL, but I thought, let's train the upper back as well while we're at it. Let's do snatch. And that's something I haven't done before. So I work up to 160. I do 3 sets of 5 with that. Then I switch over to like a normal grip and I do 160 for a set of 5, and I do a 200 kilo one for a set of 5. Then I go over to squatting, and my squatting feels like shit. I just feel like, I don't know what it is, I just can't freaking squat. And it's not that I'm weak, it's that I don't feel in a good position. Okay, that distinction is very, very clear in my mind. Once again, I don't mind feeling weak because of the RDLs. What I do mind is when the RDLs make my hips angry, or something happens in that movement that makes squatting a really nasty experience. So after I finished the RDLs, I went to the front squat and my hips were just jacked. I don't know what it is. Like both of the TFL, now that TFL, when I say TFL pain, TFL tightness, it's a manifestation of a different problem. I think it's like a hamstring or adductor tightness, because when I ambulate that, the hip pain kind of disappears, or the TFL tightness disappears. Anyway, that's where I feel my discomfort. So when I lack internal hip rotation, my TFL has to work overtime like crazy to fight that leg, that hip, to go into hip internal rotation. And I think that's why I get upset, and that's why I kind of feel crap squatting with a really, really poor interior hip internal rotation day. That's the summary of today. I just felt crap in the squat. The first and the last portion of the squat, if you're thinking about the 3 portions of the squat, the first, little bit of a knee bend, 90 degrees is the second, and then the third is the ATG. I always struggle in the second level, right? So the top is easy. The bottom, I always feel like it's kind of easy. It's just as soon as I come out of the bottom and I come to that like mid portion of the squat, that's when this internal hip rotation is required the most, and that's when I feel the shittest. So if my hip internal rotation feels crap, this is where I'm going to feel it in the squat. And today, that's what I felt it. I didn't have time to go to the gym today. We had a whole full day today, a whole bunch of things to do. So I got up earlier, got this thing out of the way. And yeah, I thought, okay, I'm going to smash these RDLs, going to work hard, and then front squats are going to feel great. And they didn't feel great. So I go back to the books and I make a little note now and explain my experience to myself, to my future self, who's going to read this and try and get some information out of it down the track. I'm going to write down, try this, it didn't work, squatting felt like shit. Literally, that's what I'm going to write. Like, squatting did not feel good. So this is not something that you want to do beforehand. Now, I'm not saying RDLs are bad. Definitely not saying that. I'm not saying the snatch grips are bad. It's just, it doesn't enhance your ability to squat. So maybe you can do them after your squatting motion. And, I'm sure if your RDL goes up, your squatting is going to go up. But it's not a activation exercise. It's not something that you do beforehand. Like a back raise or a 45-degree hyper. Those guys, when I do those, I feel freaking unbelievable. Another thing that pops into my mind right away now is the one-legged squat, whether it's a reverse lunge, a lunge, whether it's a Bulgarian split squat, anything like that makes your squatting, bilateral squatting, not unilateral, but your normal squat, the ATG, feels good. Now, you're probably going to be weaker after you do the, split stand squats, but you're going to feel good existing in your normal squat. So I like doing those exercises as well, beforehand. Now, you might be asking yourself, why don't you just come in and squat straight away? Yes, I've tried that many, many, many times. But over the course of my time in this program and training as a whole, I've worked out that ATG squats are probably one of the most difficult exercises you can do. So when you come in, roll out of your bed, come into the freaking garage at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, and you expect yourself just to pop into that ATG position with maximum weight, if you can do that, my head is off to you. But for me, it's getting more and more harder to do that. So I need to do something. And we all have that little something. Some guys talk about getting on a fan bike, air bike, whatever you call it, just a normal stationary bike. Some guys talk about doing Cossack squats. Like, there's all these different things you can do. For me, back raises, for whatever reason, makes me feel good. Another thing that makes me feel good, I can add to the list some more, good mornings, stiff-legged good mornings. That also makes me feel good. I don't know. If you think about some of those exercises that I mentioned, the good mornings, the 45 hypers and the GHDs, they're all very straight-legged. Maybe the hamstrings develop some length while you're doing this. I don't know. Once again, lots of people disagree with the idea that hamstrings have anything to do with squatting. But my experience is that if I have a tight hamstring day, I'm most likely, in fact, in my time, I've always had this, I'm going to have a poor squatting day. Now, I'm not saying that the hamstring is the primary mover in this, but the hamstring needs to be long and happy for you to hit depth. If you don't hit, if the hamstring's upset for whatever reason, you're going to have butt wink, you're going to have all sorts of things, and probably that hamstring tightness is going to spill over to some adductor issues. Who knows? Probably even calf issues, and then you have no dorsiflexion. Now, why would a hamstring upset surrounding tissues? Well, it's basically one term, fascia, or one word really, fascia. Fascia is this glad wrap network of tissue all around us. It basically engulfs all of us. If you just type in fascia into Google search, you'll see what this thing is. It's basically like a glad wrap all around us. When something is upset, the fascia helps that tissue to protect itself, basically locking it down. Now, this fascia is not segmented like you'd think. Hamstring has a bit of fascia, calf, no, it's all wrapped into one. So if the hamstring fascia gets locked up, it basically pulls up and down, inside and everywhere, right? It just pulls to itself. And this is why then you run out of length in the calves, you run out of length in the glutes, see how it kind of spills over? That is my experience. So if you're coming in and you want to do ATG squats, which is kind of like a very advanced form of movement, I've come up with this idea that I need to do something. Now, going for a jog might work. In fact, I've done that in the past as well. Before the Squat Everyday program, I've tried that as well. And yes, you go for a run, I don't know what it is, man. Like everything warms up and you feel good. You almost develop better dorsiflexion because you're bouncing on the calves for however long you want to run for. Your hips have loosened up. You've used your hip flexors. You've used your glutes. You've used adductors. You kind of loosen up and you go straight into it a lot better. So running is another thing. So there's a whole bunch of things. But is running better than 45 hypers? And this is where kind of I start getting, into the nitty gritty. And this is where I always go back to my training log, read the thoughts from previous days, previous months, and kind of try to zoom into the real answer, to the real kind of knowledge here. RDLs today, honestly, I had a really good feeling about it, but they really disappointed me. They fatigued the hell out of me, and squats felt like shit. Now, of course, they were going to fatigue the hell out of me. 200 RDL is hard work, but the squat shouldn't feel horrible. The hips should be awoken. The hips should be healthy and fired up, but that wasn't the case. My hips felt like they didn't do anything, which is really, really bizarre. My hip flexors were just, I don't know, not even switched on. They were sore, and that's why squatting felt like shit. And now I think to myself, well, what is actually going on there in comparison to a 45 hyper and a GHD back raise? What are those two exercises doing that a snatch grip RDL is not? I'm not sure about that. Maybe some of you guys have answers. Maybe you guys completely disagree with me and say that RDLs make you feel incredible to squat. Not me, not today. It's sad, but that's the case. I've got a couple of names to mention in this video. So two fellas have come onto the special thanks list, or the Feeling Poppy tier on Patreon. The fellas are Cannon Smith and Peter Gallagher. I really want to thank you guys for this special thanks. This is the top tier of support, and you guys have gone out and done that for me, for this community, for this channel. It's freaking appreciated, fellas. Like, I can't, when I got the message this morning that was the case that happened last night, I was like, wow, man. So thank you guys for doing this. Obviously, thank everyone else on the Patreon list for your support as well. Discord, Instagram, YouTube comments, like so many freaking platforms. So many people are supporting me everywhere. Appreciate all of you guys. I'll continue to do my bit. Continue to share my experience with the barbell, with this journey. And I'll try and give back as much as I can, because you guys, man, you guys are hooking me up. You guys are making me feel like, like I don't even deserve this. Like, it's just an overwhelming feeling when you wake up in the morning and you look at your email and there's like two guys somewhere in the world who have come up and tapped you on the shoulder and say, respect, man, I support what you do. That's a special feeling, man. Really, really special feeling. So thank you guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.